Hello everyone, I'm Justin, and this is a full recap of Gladiator, released in 2000. If you end up enjoying this video and want to see more from us, then make sure to click that subscribe button and click the bell to know anytime we upload a new video. A whole 24 years following the release of the 73rd Academy Awards winner for Best Picture, Gladiator, director Ridley Scott has decided to finally continue the franchise with a sequel to the original, releasing later this month on November 22nd, titled Gladiator II, which is currently projected to not only surpass the previous film's box office gross of $451 million worldwide, but also Ridley Scott's highest-grossing movie ever, The Martian, released back in 2015. Ahead of the new film, though, we're first going to take a look back at the 2000 Gladiator film, which is widely considered to be one of the greatest movies ever, and run down everything that took place. The movie opens in the year 180 AD in Germania as the Roman army, led by their commander Maximus Decimus Meridius, prepares to bring an end to their 12-year campaign against the barbarian tribes to restore peace throughout the empire, which they ultimately succeed in doing, coming out of the final battle victorious. Not long after their victory, Maximus is approached by the Emperor of Rome, Caesar Marcus Aurelius, who thanks him for his courageous efforts and asks how he could reward Rome's greatest general, to which Maximus only requests that he be permitted to return home to his wife and son. Along with the end of the war, though, it appears that Marcus Aurelius's 20 years as Caesar may also be coming to an end. As we learn, he's believed to be approaching his death, so he's called on the senators Gracchus, Gaius, and Falco, and his two children, daughter Lucilla and son Commodus, the latter of whom believes he'll be the one taking his father's position as Caesar after he passes. However, we soon learn that his father has someone else in mind to take his place during his later meeting with Maximus, to whom he expresses the feeling that, despite all the battles fought and all the lives lost, he still failed to achieve his primary goal as emperor, which was to give Rome back its true self and return it to a republican form of government. So, while they've managed to restore peace once again, he has little faith it'll last, citing how, in his 20 years as Caesar, he's only known 4 years without war. He does believe this goal is still achievable, though, under Maximus's guidance. So he asks that he be Rome's new emperor after he passes, with the sole mission of giving power back to the people and ending the corruption that has crippled their empire. Initially, Maximus declines Marcus's offer, and suggests someone with greater knowledge of the city and its politics be granted the position instead. But Marcus believes he's the only choice, since he's yet to be corrupted by said politics, leading Maximus to then question why he won't be naming his son Commodus as the next Caesar. But Marcus claims that his son is not a moral man, and emphasizes that he must not rule. So Maximus takes some time to think on his decision, while Marcus is soon met by his son, who he informs of his plans to name Maximus as Rome's next emperor, a decision that greatly upsets Commodus, not only because of his desire to rule, but also his desire for his father's love and acceptance. And he opens up about this to his father, and of how desperately he craves any sort of demonstration of his love for him. And Marcus, with tears in his eyes, blames himself for the man Commodus has become, claiming that any faults he has were due to his own failures as a father. He then opens his arms to embrace his son, but Commodus, filled with rage and heartbreak, suddenly pulls his father in tighter to his chest, and refuses to let go until Marcus Aurelius dies in his arms. With his father now dead, Commodus assumes his position as Caesar, and, for his first order of business, calls upon Maximus, whom he informs of the emperor's death, before revealing himself to be the new emperor and asking for his loyalty with an offer of his hand. However, Maximus refuses, and instead rushes back to his tent to have his loyal servant, Cicero, contact Senators Gaius and Falco and inform them that the emperor has been murdered. Although they're soon interrupted by the arrival of Maximus's close friend and subordinate general, Quintus, as well as several Praetorian guards, who are revealed to have been ordered by their new Caesar to execute Maximus. So the guards take him out into the woods, but he impressively manages to escape his execution and kill each of them, although not without having his shoulder sliced open before riding off on one of their horses all the way back to his home in Hispania. Unfortunately though, by the end of his long journey home, he only arrives in time to find that his wife and son had been crucified, per Commodus's orders, before he himself falls unconscious from exhaustion shortly thereafter. However, rather than him dying there, Maximus is instead found and captured by slave traders, who who take him to and patch him up in Zucabar, a Roman province in North Africa, where they quickly manage to sell him and a few other slaves, including a Numidian hunter named Juba, to slave trader Antonius Proximo, who we also learn oversees gladiatorial games featuring his own slaves, which he immediately begins preparing his newly acquired slaves to take part in. Initially though, a nihilistic Maximus refuses to engage in any training leading up to their battle, seeing no purpose in continuing on with his life as it is now. But ultimately, once the battle begins, Maximus chooses to defend himself, and ends up playing a significant role in leading the gladiators to victory. Maximus engages in several games following this, and his constant impressive victories causes his popularity to grow and grow, with him becoming known as the Spaniard. And also over this period of time, he grows closer to two other gladiators, a Germanic barbarian named Hagen and the aforementioned Juba, the latter of whom he frequently speaks to about the loss of his loved ones and hope for their eventual reunion in the afterlife. Meanwhile, back in Rome, Commodus, although having assumed his position as Caesar, has mostly ignored the needs of his people, and has instead been more concerned with gaining their love and admiration, with the end goal of eventually announcing the dissolution of the Senate, so he, with Lucilla at his side, can be the sole ruler of the empire. And he believes the best way to gain the public's favor is to reopen the gladiatorial games in honor of his father, even though it was his father who'd closed the games to begin with. For these games, Commodus hires Proximo's gladiators to participate, an agreement Proximo first informs Maximus of, since he's the best gladiator he has, as well as of his own history in the Colosseum. As it turns out, Proximo was once an incredibly popular gladiator as well, before eventually being freed by Marcus Aurelius. So Proximo presents this as an opportunity for Maximus to win back his freedom, but Maximus only views this as an opportunity for vengeance. So, as the entirety of Rome, Commodus, and Lucilla, as well as Lucilla's son, Lucius, watch on, Maximus competes alongside Juba, Hagen, and several others against a powerful force in what, on paper, appears to be a very one-sided affair in their opponent's favor. But, thanks to Maximus's leadership, they're able to come out of the battle victorious, much to the crowd's amazement. Commodus is also impressed by their victory, and by the Spaniard's performance, leading him to make his way down into the arena following the battle to meet him, only to learn that behind the Spaniard's helmet is the still alive Maximus, much to the Emperor's confusion and frustration, which is made even worse by the fact that he's now unable to see out his murder, since Maximus is beloved by the audience and his death would cause them to turn on Commodus. The night following the battle, Maximus is surprisingly met in his cell by Lucilla, who we learned earlier he used to be in a romantic relationship with years ago, and who's now come seeking his help, claiming she's been living in a prison of fear since the day Commodus became Caesar, knowing that her son Lucius is heir to the throne. But after witnessing Maximus stand against Commodus within the Colosseum in front of all of Rome, she believes with his help they may actually be able to remove her brother. And Maximus, while initially refusing to offer her any assistance, eventually agrees to help. Ahead of their next meeting, Maximus competes in yet another battle, this time in a one-on-one duel with the only undefeated champion in Roman history, Tigris of Gaul, who Commodus had brought out of retirement for the game. However, this battle doesn't remain a one-on-one affair for long, as Commodus soon unleashes several tigers, hoping it would result in Maximus's death. But still, he manages to come out on top, and further angers Commodus when he rejects to see out Tigris's murder after Commodus had voted for him to do so, deliberately insulting him in front of everyone, while also gaining a new nickname from the audience, Maximus the Merciful. Following his victory, Maximus is met by yet another surprising reunion, this time with his former servant, Cicero, who remains loyal to him even after all this time, and claims that his men are still prepared to fight for him if he may ever need them to. So that night, Maximus again meets with Lucilla, as well as Senator Gracchus, who's distrusted Commodus since the day he returned to Rome as their new Caesar, and the three devise a plan for Gracchus to buy Maximus's freedom from Proximo, and smuggle him out of Rome so that he can then reunite with his army in Ostia and return with them to overthrow Commodus. Unfortunately, however, these plans are quickly made difficult, as Commodus, with help from the loyal Senator Falco, begins having each senator followed. leading to him discovering Gracchus's plans of buying Maximus's freedom and subsequently having him arrested. This makes Proximo second-guess aiding them in their quest, seeing as his own life could be at risk. And he momentarily backs out of the deal, but questions this decision as well after being reminded by Maximus that Commodus had killed the man who set him free. While back at the palace, Lucilla is met by her brother, who'd also learned from following Gracchus that she had met with him. But he fortunately doesn't read much into their meeting, and instead expresses his gratitude that he has his sister to help him get through the frightful dream that is life. Although it's quite clear that he doesn't only view her as his sister, as he slowly lays her down on the bed beside him and begins gently caressing her mouth while saying he loves her, leaving her frozen in fear before she's eventually able to exit the room. Refusing to live like this any longer, she manages to convince Proximo to move forward with Maximus's escape that night, arranging to have Proximo open the gate for Maximus, outside of which he'll find Cicero waiting for him with horses, and Maximus thanks her for the risk she's taken. Lucilla also takes this moment to reveal that, although it's been some time since they were together romantically, she claims to have felt alone all her life, except for when she was with him, leading to the two sharing a kiss before she exits and returns home. While she was gone though, Commodus had come across Lucius play sword fighting with a pair of his servants, and pretending to be Maximus, the savior of Rome, a moniker he reveals his mother had given the great gladiator. And this revelation greatly disturbs Commodus, who now realizes what his sister has really been up to. So when she arrives home, he threatens the life of her son if she doesn't tell him everything she knows. And so she does, prompting Commodus to send his Praetorian guards to Proximus's gladiator school, who soon break their way in, but not before Proximo sneaks Maximus the keys to the gate, allowing him to escape while the gladiators attempt to hold them off, resulting in the deaths of Proximo and Hagen. While sadly, upon making his escape, Maximus then finds Cicero being suddenly hung and pierced through the chest by several arrows, before being surrounded himself by even more Praetorian guards and apprehended, along with the rest of the surviving gladiators. With Maximus in his custody and their plan officially thwarted, Commodus informs Lucilla that, if she wants to keep her son alive, she must love him as he has loved her, and provide him an heir of pure blood, a punishment that he considers merciful. As for Maximus, Commodus believes that the only fitting death for him would be a famous one, seeing as he is a celebrity. So he's arranged a duel between the two of them, believing it to be a perfect end to their story, although he of course gives himself the advantage ahead of their clash by violently stabbing Maximus in the side. So for the entirety of their battle, Maximus continues to slowly bleed out, but this doesn't prevent him from briefly getting the better of the Emperor, with him managing to knock Commodus's sword out of his hand, before he then drops his own sword as he begins seeing visions of his wife and son in the afterlife, which nearly allows Commodus to land a fatal blow using a hidden stiletto. But Maximus is able to snap back into reality quickly enough to avoid his several swipes, before ultimately turning the dagger back on Commodus and stabbing him through the throat with it, killing him. With Commodus the Emperor no more, Maximus orders Quintus to free the gladiators and reinstate Senator Gracchus, in whose hands he puts the fate of Rome, before he collapses to the floor and drifts off into the afterlife to finally be reunited with his family as the movie ends. And that was our recap of Gladiator. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful in any way, then be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And also, let us know in the comments below how excited you are to see Gladiator II when it hits theaters November 22nd. But once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.